nothing I dislike more than the politician that sits there and lies to you. And we all just sit there rolling our eyes going, give me a break.
Take a look behind the curtain with a real whistleblower and American patriot. Prepare to embrace the uncomfortable truth because this program has no time for comforting lies. Here is civil liberties enthusiast, Second Amendment defender, and recovering FBI agent Kyle Seraphin.
Well, hello, my friends. Welcome to the Kyle Seraphin Show. Today is Tuesday. It is November the 4th. It is an election day for many of you, and we'll talk a little bit about that, including why I think the things that we care about don't make it onto the ballot, and the people that we like are not going to get put into office. We're not a serious country. We don't have serious opposition. We don't even have a two-party system. We claim that's the problem, like we need a third party. How about just two functional parties that actually oppose each other? How about the people that represent closer to your ideas actually get a shot? And then how about if you make it through the primary system that your party actually backs you up? Or they could throw all their support behind a guy who, was responsible for a bunch of nursing home deaths in New York. They could do that, I guess. We're not a serious country right now. Gavin Newsom is telling you on TV he doesn't like it when politicians straight up just lie to you. They just look at you and you just roll your eyes. And he gets votes. A lot of people love that guy. And he's just straight up there lying to your face. It's so easy. It's so easy for them to do, and they do not care. So you have an election. I hope that those of you who are interested in your local politics that are something that's on the ballot, you guys know what's on the ballot. Each of you have a different state. Yeah, everybody's got something. There's a couple of different congressional special elections happening in Texas right now that we're aware of, and some ballot measures that we're going to go vote on. But at the end of the day, it's also a really big day for this program, for this family, for my family. We're going to be dropping our pleading to a judge to dismiss a significant lawsuit that got lots of really aggressive coverage. Left and right got super excited because the MAGA podcaster Seraphin got sued. Except I'm not a MAGA podcaster. And I've reached out to a number of journalists, and I think that over the last couple of months, they've realized, like, hey, you're just an opposition guy because you kind of have the same principles you did previously. How about that? What a crazy idea. We're not going to spend all day talking about Kash Patel. He's in Asia right now. He flew to Japan last night. He left the Gatsby party. He left his girlfriend's birthday weekend, and he flew out to Asia. And that's actually the perfect place for him to be this week. And I can't say too much, but I got a phone call last night that I'm still grappling with the effects of, or maybe the implications of. I'm not overstating this to say that there should be some information coming out this week that may change the course of our nation. That's a really heavy thing to say, isn't it? Yeah. I hope you guys pay attention, and pay attention to who is in the country and who is not in the country, and who was included in exposing this stuff and who was not. Because I'm just going to tell you, a lot of you folks listened to a certain show for a long time, came to trust that person. What if that person completely failed and let you down? Would that have an effect on you? Should it have an effect on you? It's pretty wild. And it's not my story. So although I'm carrying the burden of that story, and it's pretty freaking wild, I'm going to have to wait like you do to hear it come out. And our FBI director is in Japan when it all comes down. So just be aware of that. Let's talk about my friends over at My Patriot Supply. All I keep seeing is that things have the potential of getting worse and worse. And that's not me doing fear-mongering. That's me just being a pragmatic realist. I hate the idea of being unprepared. Ever since the COVID stuff happened, millions of Americans started buying preparedness supplies, especially emergency food and toilet paper. Probably all of you keep a supply of that. If not, why not? It's a big mistake that most people make, that they don't have any way to cook their emergency food. They thought it was a good idea to stock up the food, but then they don't know what to do if the power actually goes out, if there's a grid down scenario. So our friends over at My Patriot Supply have the Black Friday Survival Special. Yes, it is already coming into the Black Friday season. I'm starting to get the emails from other companies as well. It's like Black November is what everyone's doing. It's a 4-week food supply in this particular kit. plus $150 worth of free gifts, including everything you need to prepare the meal if you were to have to use those emergency meals, like a cook stove and fuel and fire starters and a water purifier and a bug out bag and so much more. Check it out. You want some complete survival options? You want to be able to ride out a national disaster with your family if something were to happen, civil unrest, something worse. Makes a good Christmas gift for those people that might be worried. You can go to mypatriotsupply.com/KYLE. Check out everything they have there. Again, it's mypatriotsupply.com/Kyle. There is a link in the show description, as is usual. With all the uncertainty in the world, you don't want to be unprepared. November is always kind of like preparedness month for me because these elections end up telling me about how things might go in the coming year and just how dumb this country is and how much our politicians will lie to us. The question is will it have any effects to us? So check it out. $150 in free gifts, 4 weeks of emergency food, the Black Friday Survival Special. Check out my friends at My Patriot Supply. Again, link below, mypatriotsupply.com/KYLE. Let's see what we can come up with today. I got some fun stuff, including a bunch of other topics we're going to get into. We've been kind of leaving on the sideline. All right, so I just touched it briefly, and I'm not going to spend much time on it. You know, if I lead off with it, it's not going to be the whole thing. There it is. There's the overlay. That guy, he's in Asia. I don't know what he's doing there. I don't know why he's there. Somebody asked me, is he visiting his handlers? I don't know. I don't know why FBI directors go to China. It's not the first time that that's happened, certainly not in our lifetimes. In 2019, Chris Wray went to China to go talk about counterterrorism. And in 2021, Chris Wray went to China to talk about cooperation with the Chinese police for God knows what reason. Like, we do a bunch of stupid and sort of like, I don't know, what do you call that? Like performative nonsense, but they do it. They love doing it. It's a perk of the job, flying around. If you guys listened to me on Alex Jones the other day, he said something that was pretty salient. I think that once you have a certain amount of money, there is nothing out there except nicer hotel rooms and like some slightly nicer foods and restaurants. So private aviation is really where it comes down. Private aviation is the thing. And that's what we give to our government employees. And that's why I did an entire show very early on in the first probably like dozen or two podcasts. And it was called Politically Appointed Princes. And these guys are that. Speaking of politically appointed princes, how about this guy? Does anyone remember him? He was a demon. The people on the political left. He was celebrated by the left of late because he was kind of like an anti-Trump figure. His daughter, certainly an anti-Trump figure. Former President Dick Cheney has passed away at the age of 84. Well, see ya, Dick. Dick's dead. That's a shame. Dick Cheney was known as being the architect of the War on Terror and the Iraq War. Two things that forever changed, let's say, my generation, destroyed our faith in government, took a lot of lives, and the legacy of those things is that our American system has been, I would say, destroyed to a level that was previously unimagined. If we were going to go back and talk about salient events and times when the American experience has dramatically gone downhill, I think the 1908, the 1913 game that we talk about here regularly about changing from a republic into this garbage democracy sort of idea that the Democrats have pushed out, that was a big piece of it. Federal Reserve, direct election of senators, collection of an income tax by the federal government. That's pretty awful. And that came to fruition in a really big way when they actually used those mechanisms in the 1930s. So FDR period, moving on into World War II. Sure. But I think you'd have to say that another turning point has certainly been the War on Terror, 9/11, the response to it, and the way that these guys went after it. So here's Fox News announcing all the great things about Dick Cheney because they're Fox News, and all they do is just say sort of like nonsense. They just sort of just whatever feels good for people. Like, how do you feel? This is a nice thing to say. Here's Fox News stumbling over this. Like, I think this guy's name is Brian Kilmeade. He's like having a hard time reading his teleprompter stuff because he's like, wait, am I saying all this bullshit? Yeah, he is.
This is a Fox News alert. We have just learned, as Carly was talking, that Dick Cheney has died. We're learning more information as we do. We will continue to pass that along to you, of course. We just literally got this information a few seconds ago.
He was chief of staff under Gerald Ford. He was former Secretary of Defense under George H.W. Bush. He went on to be vice president for 2 terms with George W. Bush and is considered the conservatives' conservative, a very hardliner, someone extremely competent, and someone who dealt with hard issues in his 30s and has dealt with that his entire life.
They're saying that he died last night at the age of 84, and we just received a statement from his family. Ainsley, you want to read this?
Sure. It says Richard B. Cheney, the 46th Vice President of the United States, died last night, November 3rd, 2025. He was 84 years old. His beloved wife of 61 years, Lynn, his daughters Liz and Mary, and other family members were with him as he passed. The former vice president died due to complications of pneumonia and cardiac and vascular disease. For decades, Dick Cheney served our nation, including as White House Chief of Staff, Wyoming's Congressman, Secretary of Defense, and Vice President of the United States.
We don't even care whether or not we care.
Oh, that was my reaction. Sorry, that's also my impression of Chuck Grassley at this point. He's 84. He lived a full life. He was a conservative's conservative. So says Fox News, the voice of boomer conservatives. Folks, if you are a boomer, I am not poking fun at you. But if you think that Fox News is anything more than performative nonsense, maybe consider that they would be more than happy to have this guy on, and they'll have this guy's mirror image on.
Nothing I dislike more than the politician that sits there and lies to you. And we all just sit there rolling our eyes going, give me a break.
Give me a break, okay? These ancient people, look, you're 84. That's what happens. You've been struggling with heart disease since your 30s. God gave you 50 extra years, or maybe it wasn't God. I don't know. I don't know what kind of deal you struck. But Dick Cheney was an absolutely disastrous figure for this country. And his legacy is terrible for people my age that are raising children, that have high school age children, that are looking around going, this is not the America that I grew up in. This is a country that I was born in, and the country that I was born in would invade the current iteration of the country that I currently live in, and I didn't change passports. That's atrocious. We're living in like bizarre and crazy unserious times. That was a impromptu sort of half-ass eulogy by the people at Fox, because God forbid they ever say anything that doesn't just go along the mainstream, go along to get along feelings. Actually, you know what? I had a clip in here and I wasn't sure where it fits, and I'm going to have to add it in. So give me 1 second because I'm going to grab it to you. This is the vibe. This actually came from Fox News itself. And it's like the classic, we should just be nice. Like, I know we got problems in this country, but can we agree that we should just, like, what if people were just nice to evil? I have a sticker that's on my phone. It's like one of those stickers you push the button and then it sends like a graphic or whatever. It's an emoji kind of thing, or it's a meme-ish thing. It's got a picture of St. Michael the Archangel, and he's stepping on the head of Satan with a sword posed above, ready to plunge it into his neck. And it says, do not make peace with evil. Destroy it. That's always been my attitude. You're never going to make friends doing that sort of thing. If you see evil and you call it out and you say, let's destroy it. That, by the way, is not the attitude of Fox News, but nor is it the attitude of the quote-unquote MAGA crowd. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to figure this into today's show, but I have this instinct that the quote-unquote the big tent, if you think about things that are done in tents, what's done in a tent? The most relevant thing I can think of, the most obvious example from my life of a tent is the circus. So when you go out there and you say, we need to have a big tent, what I hear, and maybe I'm crazy like that, maybe that's just me, but the image that is conjured in my brain is circus. You brought in the circus. You brought in Bruce Jenner, and you claimed that he was a good conservative. You just talked about Dick Cheney on Fox News, and he's a conservative's conservative. Getting text messages in the middle of the show. I got to put this thing in the Faraday bag. I should have done that earlier. The whole idea that you would bring in people that are transgender, and you're going to bring in people that are homosexual couples that are adopting children, they're in contrast to everything that would be theoretically conservative. It's the reason why when I say, I think if you are a conservative person who believes in conservative values, who votes conservatively, thinks that you're going to get conservatism. Well, you're not, obviously, because you could just look at the results. That's not been the case. But moreover, you're the rhino. Dick Cheney probably was the quote-unquote, if you do a capital C, conservative. He was the Republicans' Republican. That would be the better way to say it. He's a guy that loves war, right? And he loved Americans paying for it and getting value out of it and certain people going and dying so that other people could make a lot of money out of it. That's the Republicans' Republican at this point. But it's not a conservative's conservative. They've skewed those words. The right is more than willing to just play with the language game just as much as the left. And so, I don't know. I just see this thing as a sort of a biblical principle. You can't serve two masters. Either you believe in a Western and a Christian perspective and think that that's the way that the country is meant to go, or you believe in like moral relativism and gay marriage is just as good as straight marriage because it's a marriage and people who love each other and love is love. And then you might as well be on the freaking left, which is why when we say that there is no difference between the two of them, we're pretty obvious that that's the case. They're all full of it. I can't help but see it. And every time I see it, it makes me grossed out even more. This is something that happened over the last couple of days. I was going to get into this. I'm going to talk about government shutdown. We're going to talk about a couple other things, Judge Boasberg and some other nonsense. The theater that keeps going on. Sometimes people drop the mask of theater and they just do things that I don't know who's advising them, but thank God that they do it. Occasionally the mask of whatever, like the false good falls off and you just get that unvarnished, slimy piece of shit that runs our country. And one of the greatest, slimiest, nastiest, like oiliest human beings that any of us have ever seen is Lindsey Graham. I don't think that I could sit like that would be a torture. When I was going through torture training, or they do this sort of like resistance training in the military. I went through SEER school. They put you in this little box, and I'm in a box for like, I don't know, 48 hours or something, and you're peeing in a little coffee cup. It's a number 10 coffee tin. I remember that. And you're supposed to poop in there if you got to poop in there. And you're standing in this box with nothing but your own thoughts. And occasionally somebody opened the door up and yelling at you or beating your ass. And they're pulling people out and dropping them and doing push-ups or slapping them around, stuff like that. So you're standing in the dark all by yourself and they're piping in things and music and sounds. And one of the torturous things was a twisted sort of like remix of George W. Bush talking about the war on terror. And they were talking about how it was that he had somehow covered up rape at the Air Force Academy. And it was like this real slanty, weird thing. You could see them just like mixing words together. It was jump cuts before that was cool. Before there was TikTok, there was this. This is going back to like 2009 for me. And I just remember thinking like, I don't hate this. Like, I know that they're making this stuff up. This is just George Bush saying things and they obviously made a lie. When Lindsey Graham does it, it's like if you would pipe that in for survival training and I had to listen to Lindsey Graham for 48 hours and I didn't get like a little mix of the Boots, the Rudyard Kipling song, which by the way, that's what survived and made me sustain. If you guys have never been through this school, let me just tell you, there's this poem and I can't remember what it's called, but I think it's called Boots. And they play it. Everybody who's gone through survival school, I think, has heard it. I think it's on the soundtrack, regardless of who you go through. If you go through what's called JPRA, Joint Personnel Recovery, with the Air Force, with most of the Navy, with some of the Army, or if you go through one of the Marine Corps, SEER schools, I think they all play Boots. And it's super catchy. And I haven't heard it in like 16 years, probably 16 years. I think I went in November or December of 2009. And it's this really catchy tune. They just do this. This is just an aside, but enjoy this one. It's like, for those of you who know, you know. It's like, there are flags, flags, flags over Africa. There are boots, boots, boots marching up and down. 16, 32, 48 miles a day. Flags, flags, flag. And I'm in there like just marching in my little dark cell, right? If you piped in Lindsey Graham, though, I would have told you everything I wanted to know. Whatever it was that you thought of, you were like, hey, spill the beans, Seraphin. Give us up the spins. Give us the frequencies to contact whatever your friendly forces are. I'd just give it to you if I had to listen to this for 48 hours.
He recognized Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Why? Because if you got a problem with that, take it up with God. He's the guy that did it, not Trump. So I just want to say, I feel good about the Republican Party. I feel good about where we're going as a nation. We're killing all the right people and we're cutting your taxes. Trump is my favorite president. We've run out of bombs. We didn't run out of bombs in World War II. So, as a coalition of Republicans, some Baptist, some Jewish, we organize ourselves around principles that we love and we cherish. We love individual freedom. We love entrepreneurship. We love capitalism. We love Israel. We love the idea of Israel. We love the struggle they've been involved in. We love them, helping them because you're helping yourself. So to those who worry about these stupid interviews and far off places, don't worry. The Republican Party has figured it out when it comes to Israel. We understand that Israel is a friend of America to the bitter end. We understand that God blesses those who bless Israel. And where I come from, I figured that crap out when I was 6 years old. God bless you. Thank you very much.
Seriously, and in no uncertain terms, and in like my most restrained voice, fuck that guy. I do not understand how we are in America in 2025 on a campaign trail, like run an election day, where you had someone go out there and say, America first, that we were going to take care of this nation, that we were going to put the values here, and we're killing all the right people, and we're out of bombs, and we're not at war. Are you freaking kidding me? I'm so disgusted by the fact that that human being exists. And all of it just goes to like, if you put that piece of garbage out in front of a people and he drops the mask and says that insanity, he can't even pronounce the word Israel. Israel. That fat, bloated piece of junk. It's so nauseating because Donald Trump stands up there and says, this guy's, he's one of ours. He's like, Lindsey Graham's great. Like, go ahead and vote for him. Like, bring him back. Like, make sure he campaigns on his behalf. What the hell are we doing here? It's crazy that here we are in 2025. We got less than 3 years left of a guy that you all thought was going to go out there and solve the problems. And we knew there were going to be problems from the activist judges. And you knew that there was going to be sort of a resistance from the establishment to cozy up to that nasty, slimy turd. It should be the end of anybody who believes that there is such a thing as make America great again, because that dude just said it. Here's another guy that said it. I wasn't even going to go into this. I just grabbed these clips and I put them in my back pocket because it's so representative of how stupid they think that you are. The crazy thing is people are actually rebelling against this stuff. They can't even hear themselves. Here's Mark Levin, who for years has been called the Great One. I have no idea what is great about Mark Levin. He's always seemed like a yelling, bloviating idiot to me. I've listened to him. He stole an entire article that I wrote and put it as a chapter in his book. Do you guys realize that? And didn't say it was coming from me. He literally lifted an entire article that I wrote for Tracy Beans, and he made it like 9 pages of a book that he wrote. And I found out about that when I was hanging out with Steve Baker at the Blaze. I was walking and they were reading his stuff. And he's like, and he's reading it. I'm like, that sounds really familiar. Oh, those are my words. This dude is doing a book read of Kyle Serafin's words on his Fox show on the weekend. It blew my mind. I was like, can you do that? I mean, you can say, I did a good job, so thanks. What a weird thing to do. Mark Levin, aka the Great One. This guy's bought his own hype. It's like that they're an old and it's like when people said that certain media were going away. And then that media pushed back and was like, you'll never get rid of us. TV media is irrelevant. In the same way you just saw a fluffing, like fawning conservative bit about dying Dick Cheney. Have they gone out there and met people that are in the so-called the big tent? The regular people, the everyday people that work for a living, that have calluses on their hands and do things that are like keeping America going? Have they ever met a mechanic that was like, you know who I love? Dick Cheney. That dude represents me. I love that he took a bunch of oil money and then he went out there and sent kids to die in the Middle East. That was my favorite part about him. He was great. What I really love is the surveillance state that they left for us. That's awesome. So good. It's funny because we're watching politicians now cry about that surveillance state that they've been funding for the last 25 years. I got Marsha Blackburn, another one that's ancient. We don't even... Hold on.
We don't even care whether or not we care.
Yeah. I mean, if these people were like young enough that they would experience the consequences of their action, maybe. Anyway, apparently they have just moved forward and they've left the physical plane of reality where they can actually go out there and know that they're other human beings. They must be so wealthy and so out of touch that this sounded reasonable. Mark Levin had to know that somebody was taping this. This is at the Republican Jewish Coalition. Look, I used to work with a group called Catholic Vote. They're Catholic people and they vote. They're not aligned with any particular, I don't think they have a Republican or a Democrat lean. They just cannot go with Democrats because Democrats love transgender surgeries and abortion. So that's against the Catholic faith. So they're naturally aligned to the right. But those people were really conservative. Like a lot of the women would wear veils at church. They went to Latin Mass. They had a bunch of kids. The guy who's the ambassador to the Holy See right now, Brian Birch, who's a really great guy. He has 9 children. Like he's really in the game to be fruitful and multiply and live by, real Christian principles. And then you got this dude telling you that he's making up names. That was the thing I always loved about Mark Levin too. His voice is so unlistenable. Why do people... You want to be yelled at by a man who sounds like this? And I make fun of Tucker Carlson? And I make fun of Nick Prentice? Tell me if my accuracy is pretty close.
Hitler admirers, Stalin admirers, Jew haters, American haters, Churchill haters. You're damn right we're going to cancel them and deplatform them. It's called the market system. They don't have a lifetime job like a bureaucrat who we're going to protect. And if they're your friend, there's something wrong with you. No Hitler admirer, Holocaust denier, platformer should be anybody's friend, as a matter of fact. You don't get to wrap your psychotic, mental, unhinged, Nazi, Klan, jihadist bullshit around American patriotism. You don't get to claim you're MAGA and America first when you're lining up with the Marxists and the Islamists and Hamas and the terrorists. That's not America first. That's sick.
What? Who asked you? Who told you that you were in charge of anything? What did you get elected to? You're just a guy with a voice that's really hard to listen to. And you sound super tough. Huh? There's stuff going on right now. Look at this. We knew that we were going to have this problem. We knew that there would be judges out there doing stuff. We knew that if you said, hey, we'd like to try to fix this country, that it was going to be an uphill battle. I just knew that it wasn't going to be accomplished because of the people they put in charge. Donald Trump doesn't run everything in the country. He's got some people that do a decent job. There are people like Tulsi Gabbard out there. There's people like Joe Kent. They seem like they've really got the mission set understood. There's guys like Sean Duffy, Chris Wright. There's people in his cabinet that actually understand what it looks like. And then you got this media noise. And you got Lindsey Graham. And that guy has equal footing. What are we doing? Read this story here. I don't know why. Judge has blocked the Trump administration once again from being the commander-in-chief and from deploying troops into Portland. You know what's funny about Portland? It keeps coming back up. Why would that be? It's almost like that would be a great place to go and figure out what went wrong and what sort of money was flowing into leftist protests in 2020. We're going to do this all over again. You know what the upside is? When I told you that something is going to rattle this country, we are going to be able to re-adjudicate the last, 5-6 years. We're going to do it again. I'm shocked it hasn't gotten violent yet, but I think it will. I think that that needs to happen. Something needs to distract you all from seeing all this because it's really obvious right now. Federal judge in Oregon barred Trump from deploying the National Guard to Portland, Oregon, until at least Friday. She said there's no credible evidence that protests in the city grew out of control before the president federalized the troops earlier this fall. Yeah, that's probably true. There probably is no credible evidence that it's out of control right now. We can just look back 5 years ago and then realize that it doesn't take very much. And then they riot for 100 days in a row. By the way, the same people are still there. And those people didn't go to jail and they didn't face federal charges. And we just let the statute of limitations collapse. So there's that. The state and the city sued because they want this. Yet more evidence, I would say, that you can't fight people at the local level who want the thing that you think is bad for them. We don't get to decide it. I think we should embrace it. I'm not even sure if Republicans should run somebody in New York City when you have a legit communist who's like got a 92% chance of winning right now. And again, Hillary Clinton had a 92% chance of winning in 2016. So things happen. God's hand is on things that we don't understand. It caused me to cry myself to sleep laughing in November. On November 4th, going into November 5th of 2016, I was at the FBI Academy laughing so hard that I had tears running down my face. So anything can happen. The rulings from a woman named District Court Judge Karim Imgut. Immergut. She's an appointee of Mr. Trump. It followed a 3-day trial in which both sides argued about whether the protests and the immigration and customs enforcement should be allowed to come in and do their work there, and whether or not this was conditions met for using military domestically under federal law. It's a real slippery slope, because here's the worst part about it. The same tool that you're going to see Donald Trump use will be the same tool that will be turned around and used against you and me and everybody else. And if only we could figure out, like, hey, well, the good news is all the bad stuff has been corrected. All the danger and the evil has been rooted out. So we don't really have anything bad going on anymore. It's going to be fine because we've de-weaponized this government. We've depoliticized it. We've gotten rid of the bad actors, and it's all going to be fine. If only that were the case.
You came in, you're there now, the leader. But have the old leaders who assigned this and directed this operation, have they been dismissed from the FBI?
Every single person that has been found to have weaponized or participated in that process has been removed from leadership positions. And if and when we find any others that are involved in this, as you know, this is a 37,000-person agency, we are going to take swift action just like we have. And just look at the record of the people that have been dismissed for their actions and what they're saying when they get out there about how they personally opined about the weaponization of this place, just like one of Peter Strzok's friends did recently this past week.
Right.
That's
Right. Yeah. Anyway, that was months ago, and he continues to have these mass firings. They just fired somewhere between 4 and 15 on Friday of people that had to do with Arctic frost. Somehow they managed to miss that single big case, which we're going to talk about in just a second. Before we do, if you don't trust government, like me, if you don't believe that the government should have access to certain things at certain times, maybe our senators should have taken a note from my friends over at Silent. It'd be easy for them to do. All they got to do is go to slnt.com/KYLE. Use promo code Kyle at checkout, save 15% on quality, functional, shut it all down, Faraday equipment, the government, big tech, corporate data brokers, my ex-girlfriend, the FBI, cyber criminals. They're all fighting for a piece of your digital footprint. They don't have to ask. Sometimes they do. They go to a judge and they get it. If you want to shut it down so the phone doesn't give off anything, you could go get some products from Silent that will block all Wi-Fi signals, cellular, Bluetooth, GPS, RFID, near-field communications. You name it. If it's coming out of your phone, it won't be coming out of that bag. And that's why you get it. Signal goes away. There's no tracking, no remote access, no breadcrumbs, nobody following where you went. It's the same technology that special operations and counterintelligence and intelligence operatives use around the world. They block signals, they avoid surveillance, they secure your comms. You can use it for whatever your mission leads, even if your mission is just leave me the freak alone because I'm trying to have dinner with my family and I don't want the phone to ring. It is the way to get it done. If you want to disconnect from the outside world for a short period of time, if you want a little bit of silence, go to slnt.com/KYLE. Get yourself hooked up with one of their Faraday products like this E3 everyday backpack. It's not cheap. It's not the cheapest. It's not the garbage Chinesium stuff, but it is really, really good. It's a really great product. The best part about it for me, which is really lame, the buckle is one-handed magnetic, and I really like it. And it's got a really cool, like, unique clasp to be able to open it up. This particular bag has 2 different Faraday sleeves, one for a laptop, one for your phone. You can use it for multiple things. You can use it with the bag, or you can use the bag independently of it. You may not use both sleeves all the time. Check them out. Silent, slnt.com/KYLE. I only take on products of stuff that I really like. I really like their gear, which is why it is all over my house, including ready to go for riot deployment if we end up having the snap riots. Check out my friends over at Silent. You will not be disappointed. I promise you. When you get it, you'll be like, duh, that was pretty cool. Pretty cool gear. Pretty into it. How about we talk about something where I take my Faraday backpack all the time to the airport when I go. I hate flying. I don't like going places. But when I do, I really don't want to see flight delays and airport disruptions and fears as the government shutdown drags on. Yeah, look, this is inevitable. This is one of the few times when I, and probably also you, have a direct interaction with the federal government. And if you want to know why I make the argument the federal government sucks so much, it's because when you go deal with it, you realize it sucks. It's not good. It's not good at solving the problem. They can't even put up the signs that make sense where the lines start for TSA. Oh, are you clear? Are you pre-check? Are you this? Are you that? Are you blah? It's like, Listen. just put up a sign for regular people, which is the vast majority of us that don't go to the airport like every five minutes. If you're a frequent flyer, you know where to go. If not, you got to go dig through all this garbage. The TSA sucks. And it sucks that we're having to have our air traffic controllers, who do a remarkably good job compared to a lot of places. You hear far less evidence of issues in the United States when it comes to safety and air travel. Far less issues. And they're not getting paid. It's not great. You know, again, I think you should be able to make it through and be able to survive 2 pay periods without a paycheck if you work for the government, because you get paid regularly and you get paid pretty decently. But nobody likes going to work without getting paid. Tell me about it. I did it for 14 months. When I started this podcast, we started having our advertisers pay first 30 days in arrears, then 60 days in arrears, then 90 days in arrears, right? Imagine doing work and not getting paid. Like, I think we just got paid for July. Can you imagine? Like, that's the difference when you have your own business. Like, you get paid farther and farther back. You got to be responsible. I know a lot of government employees don't live like that, so it's tough. And we're going to start seeing some problems where people are going to find other things to do. Air traffic controllers and TSA officers continue to work without pay. The White House warns that these delays and cancellations could snarl up Thanksgiving travel. Woe to you who are going to be flying this Thanksgiving. I don't think it's going to be that much fun. Even if it's just the backlog of people that got sick and are overworked and anything else, and they're worried about not getting paid, because that is a real stress. And it does weigh on you. And I can tell you this. I'll tell you very clearly. When I lost the paycheck from the FBI and we sold the house, when it got real for us, and I moved into my parents' place, which was tough to do at 41 years old, with my whole family, 3 little kids and a pregnant wife. When we did that move, let me just throw it out there to you. I got really sick. That first Fox News interview I did with Dan Bongino on Saturday night, I was sick as a dog, like 104-degree fever. I had a momentary break where I feel like God gave me sort of like a little moment to be able to just own my own facilities. And then afterwards, I drove back up the mountain feeling like death. The first time that I sat down and talked to Seb Gorka, I was sweating. My back of my shirt was soaked. There's significant stress when you start losing paychecks and you start having the reality hit home that, like, man, we are not in charge. The right answer, by the way, for me was to turn to faith. And it was like, this is in God's hands. We're not going to be able to solve this problem. It is way too big. I think that's also the case for this nation. I hope that these people have churches and faith groups that are looking out for them, that are praying for them. And you can add into it. I think that's not a bad thing to do, because these people do a valuable service. Keeping aircrafts from running into each other is not an easy job. It is a skilled job, and it takes a lot of focus. And if they're distracted, they're not wrong. If you're distracted about what's going on at home and whether or not you're going to be able to pay your mortgage, or whether or not you're going to pay your electric bill, whether or not you should be in that position is another animal. Because when you're in it, and there's people whose lives are in your hands, which they are when you're an air traffic controller, that's a big deal. The Trump administration is pointing to the woes of the nation. By the way, I've got a really fun little clip of a CBS interview. It's like a 60 Minutes. It's a sit down with Donald Trump where they are trying to make him sound unreasonable, and he doesn't. He doesn't actually sound unreasonable in all this stuff. Again, I still think they should own the shutdown and just say, we're going to shrink government. That's why we're here. That's what we came to do. But the problem is you've got the Lindsey Grahams out there. You've got the war boners that are raging right now for how much money can we spend and how can we keep this going. Remember, they just want to do a CR where they're going to put more and more of our money, Biden-level spendings out. That's what this is fighting over. And they want more of it. They want to re-up on things that expired that they don't have the ability to do. Let's play the little Donald Trump clip here. It's relevant as much as anything else here. This is neat because what you get to see in real time, and this has been going on of late, the edited versus unedited version. This was a grab by Steven Crowder. Good on him. From November 2nd, they aired this interview. This was from a tape that happened on Friday afternoon. Donald Trump edited to look and sound less reasonable than he is. And when you read the unedited thing, you're like, yeah, he's not an unreasonable human being. In fact, the stuff he says makes perfect sense. I think that's what America's voted for. What they did not vote for was activist judges shutting down criminal activity. And yet, that's what a lot of the localities want. Our country is divided 50-50. You keep seeing it. I see all these new polls. They're coming out. They're like, oh my God, 50% of people don't support Trump's agenda. Yeah, we knew that from the beginning. That's always been the case. By the way, that's the reason why in 1913, when they went to the direct election of senators, they actually broke our country, because we have two, quote unquote, democratic institutions when one was not supposed to be. It was supposed to represent the states. We were supposed to have a representative republic. Oh, well, here we go. Anyway, this is a side-by-side showing you exactly that sort of thing that Gavin Newsom talks about. You can make politicians look like they're slimy and lying, even when they're not.
And all we're saying, give us an extension, we'll work it out. They've lost their way. They become crazed lunatics. And all they have to do, Nora, is
this
say,
is what they aired.
Let's vote.
So Hakeem,
Senate Democrats say they will vote to reopen the government if Republicans agree to extend subsidies for over 20 million Americans who use Obamacare for their health insurance.
All we're saying, give us an extension, we'll work it out. They've lost their way. They become crazed lunatics. And all they have to do, Nora, is say, let's vote. And you can open, the economy could open up during our interview.
Is there something you can do, though? Is there something you can do to bring this to an end?
All I can do is give the facts. Here's what I can't do. I can't give them $1.5 trillion so that they can give welfare to people that came into our country illegally, so that prisoners and that people from mental institutions and people that are drug dealers get vast amounts of money for health care. That I can't do.
Wow. I understand, and there are some examples in this interview where they just omitted some portion of the interview. They have to edit it down for time, I get that, but in some cases you get it, you go, okay, maybe this subject repeated themselves. Or
what if they made a more coherent argument and you cut out the coherent part of the argument? Sometimes people can be edited down. You listen to it, you go, that's kind of slop. There's verbal pauses. He's falling over himself. He's trying to get to the answer. He repeats the answer more than once. It's not really adding any value. Let's drop that. That's what a professional editor might do. Clarity of message. Or you can make him sound like he's unreasonable and he doesn't want to play ball. I can't help but hear these things. All this stuff about the shutdown. There's an article that is touting, we are now at the record. As of today, I think today is the record. November 4th, we have now reached 35 days, the longest shutdown in history. I lived through the first one, by the way. I didn't actually even notice. But we are going to see something that hadn't happened previously, or that I don't remember being talked about back in, 1819? I don't remember them talking about SNAP benefits expiring in the same way. So I don't know if they got like a CR that covered that previously, but I never heard of them running out of benefits. And so that may be the game changer. And I don't think they are deliberately, I think Democrats are deliberately looking to see food riots. That's my guess. Let me read the story here from ABC. They did coverage of it. It says this now tied for the longest shutdown, the first term happened under Trump. Lengthy standoff between Donald Trump and congressional leaders. I like how they're acting like Donald Trump has a say. You're showing Mike Johnson right there. He's the guy in theory. Election day, Tuesday. People are going to head to the polls in Virginia, New Jersey, New York. They're going to be putting in some of these politicians who have been basically campaigning on the cost of food. Isn't that interesting? And these guys don't want the ability to have SNAP and EBT and so on. That doesn't seem like they would be using that sort of cynical tactic, would it? Nobody would do that. If the shutdown continues into Wednesday, then lawmakers will shatter the record. They won't shatter the record. They'll just step past the record. Let's be not ridiculous. But yeah, I think it's most likely to continue on. And that record was set under Trump's first term because he's such a bad guy. I remember it. Yeah, I was correct. Late 2018 into early 2019. People cried about not getting paid on Christmas. It looks bad. It's terrible. Listen, that happened in recent memory. That happened recently enough that I was a federal worker at that time. And a lot of the people who are working for the federal government were, in fact, working for the federal government at the time. It is a predictable consequence that people will vote on your budget and whether or not you're going to get paid every single year. And you can see it coming months out. It's like, hey, do we have a budget? No. Oh, they don't do their job? Oh, nope. Okay, cool. Why do they do this? Because it lets them have unlimited amounts of public-facing, I'm on your side, but everyone isn't. This has been the game that's been going on in Congress since I was a child. I remember learning about this in a government class as a high school student, like 17, 18 years old. Take it back 2 decades. The rule is Congress is corrupt. They're a bunch of crooks. Send me to Washington to go straighten out those evildoers, and I'll vote for you. I'll fight for you. I've got your best interest in heart. That's what I'm going to do. Send Seraphin to Washington to go straighten up the corruption. He's a straight shooter who's never going to lead you down the wrong path. Blah, 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 blah. I'm great. They suck. That's why Congress always has very, very low approval ratings and getting lower. Ever since they started tracking it, it's gone lower and lower and lower because people in Congress campaign on they are bad and I am good and you should like me. And that's why people actually think highly of their own congressmen compared to the body, despite the fact that they're all the damn same. And then there's Lindsey Graham, and everybody should hate him, and I don't know why anyone likes him. I don't know why. Let me do a guy that some people like. Some of you like, probably, I bet. I've met him. He's unimpressive. I got to tell you, like, when you meet somebody that is so bland and forgettable, and they're like, he's a good man. And I'm like, is he, though? Because he's part of the problem, as far as I can tell. He works there. Let me just give you my best Tim Burchett impression. Hey, folks. Tim Burchett here. I'm walking somewhere and telling you about things that are bad in the government, and we're trying to straighten it out here for you. We're looking to make things right. Hey, folks. Folks are going to run out of SNAP benefits soon, but I would like people to have SNAP benefits. I'm a conservative that also believes in government solutions. You tell me how I did.
Hey, everybody. Tim Burchett. We're going to suspend all of our fundraising until the SNAP benefits are restored to folks, food stamps.
Yeah, you don't have any money.
There's over 42 million Americans that currently rely on that, and it's just ridiculous. So if you're thinking about sending us a contribution, don't. Send it to one of your local food banks. They're going to be carrying the weight of this thing till Schumer comes to his senses. So anyway, thank y'all for sending me here.
Whenever you get a chance, make sure you go out there and tell everybody that you're a really good person. Try to use some virtue signaling. Don't send us any campaign contributions. Take care of your neighbors. That's what we're all about here. Meanwhile, you have one job to do in Congress. What is your job? We have power of the purse. That's what they always tell you. Power of the purse. Oh, yeah. We're the most powerful branch. We're the number one. Article 1 powers. You're supposed to write a budget. It's not like nobody knew what the deadline was. It's not like they were like, pop quiz, give us your term paper. How are you going to fund it? It's like, it's going to be on October 1st that the new budget starts every single year and has for decades. It's not a surprise that your job is your job. It's also not a surprise that there are 42 million people that rely on the government, and that seems like far too many, doesn't it? Doesn't that seem like way too many people? And you wonder why people are snapping when things get weird. Yeah, I used the word snap. That was not even intentional. That was an accidental dad pun. If SNAP benefits run out, which they have, and people actually get to the point where their benefits, their pantries are closed out, because right now they're coasting on the buffer zone, I'm sure of it. Is it going to be this weekend, next weekend? How many people are starting to get like real riled up? By the way, in addition to the war boner that's going on in the pro-Israel caucus over there that you heard, the Republican Coalition for Jewish People or whatever that was, you got the other side saying that they're trying to starve you to death, that this side doesn't believe that you should eat. And so you're hearing conflicting messages. I hear it. One side's like, they're trying to take all our money and give it to Israel. And Israel's bad and blah, 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 blah. And then the other side's going, and the other half of MAGA people are going like, no, Israel's great. They're the best. If you don't love Israel, you suck. How about this guy?
I see somebody with a sign that said Tucker is not MAGA. I guess I got to put his name out there. That's not MAGA. When you're on your platform and people are acting as if Sharia law is better than what we have here in America and the laws that are given to us by God through faith, you're a silly person.
Yeah, you a silly person. That's a real serious talker right there, Brandon Tatum. I've been on his program, by the way, for everything that it's worth. I was on Brandon Tatum's program. I was interviewed by him. He might have been the lowest IQ person that has ever interviewed me. I've done hundreds of interviews. And he seems like a nice guy, so I'm not being mean specifically, but he does not seem bright. He doesn't seem like an intelligent person. It's somewhat terrifying that he was a cop, but that's kind of like, you're going to get a certain capability. There's a spectrum within law enforcement, if you guys can imagine. There's some people that are too dumb to know that the rules are bad, so they're going to go out there and arrest you for things that they ought not to, because they don't even know what the oath means. They sure as hell didn't read the Constitution that they swore allegiance to. And then there's people that are like, Steve Friend, and they have a genius level IQ, and they probably don't belong in law enforcement either, even though we love having them there. Like, they're going to be a problem because they think. That guy's talking about Tucker Carlson. And he's saying that you can't say certain things. We shouldn't platform it. I think the answer has been more speech. The crazy thing is that you're getting people riled up inside the quote unquote big tent, that circus that we have on the right, of which conservatives are basically like standing in the door looking, going, I don't think that's part of me. I don't want to be part of that. Why don't you take your Dave Rubins and your gay couples that are adopting babies Why don't you just take that and shove it? Why don't you take your transgender dudes that are quote unquote conservative and have booming deep voices? Why don't you take those and get them the hell out of here? Can we just be represented by like regular people? I don't know. Can we get like a 80s or a 70s conservative Republican type? Were they any better back then, maybe? I don't know. You guys tell me. I despise all this crap. I hate it. I hate these people. This is why I stand here in the middle and go, everybody, you all suck. And at least when I look at somebody that operates in good faith, which is what I do see, people who have stood on the same consistent sort of statements for a long time, even if I don't agree with them, I'm like, at least I know what you are and where you are and why you've been saying it. Makes sense to me. You're getting people riled up. You're seeing a lot of stupidity. You're going to start seeing that stupidity spill out into the streets because people are illogical and emotional animals. And some of them are getting real fed up. They don't have good information. They weren't well educated. And then they're going to get desperate because they're hungry and they've been relying on government. Turns out government is a really, really bad god to worship. How about this guy? There's stories about more and more of these. And you know what's crazy? Most of these are not actually arrestable threats, and yet they're going to do it anyway. You tell me what happens when you start politicizing law enforcement. You tell me in this country what happens when the government's job is only to protect the people that continue to be in power. As an American, you actually have a right to say all kinds of wild stuff. You could be a Nazi. You can be an anti-Semite. You can be a racist. You can. I don't want to hang out with you. I don't want you coming to my house. I don't want you talking to my kids about anything important. But I can hear you and I can go, oh, doesn't change my opinion. That was a good point. That was a terrible point. That's based on illogical things. That's historically inaccurate. Whatever. Or we could have a speech police that we just elect who's going to get beat up for the period of time that we have the executive change. When I tell you about the Ring of Power and why I think it's really dangerous that we didn't de-weaponize it, it's because this guy's going to get arrested. And another guy got arrested as well. Here, actually, I've got the story. Let me pull the story up. Man charged for allegedly threatening to kill President Trump in social media posts. He's 57 years old. Well, that sounds serious, right? That's the environment we're in right now. We can't have threats. He's been shot at. Seems like a problem. He's a suburban Chicago man. He was federally charged for allegedly threatening to kill Donald Trump. Okay, remember, there's a whole thing called true threat doctrine that has to come into play. The courts have ruled on this before. But maybe if you got a Brandon Tatum type who doesn't know how to think and has never read any case law, maybe then you're in some real trouble. He was charged by a criminal complaint, which means it was an exigent circumstance. That's how that works. Making an interstate threat under the Interstate Commerce Clause to injure a person. There's some additional ones that protect the president. In the complaint, it was a selfie-style video posted on Instagram October the 16th. He allegedly said, I'm going to get some guns. I know where I can get a lot of effing guns, and I'm going to take care of some business myself. He said, I'm tired of all you effing frauds. You people need to effing die. People are going to die. F all of you, especially Trump. You should be executed. That, ladies and gentlemen, is not a true threat. Saying someone should in the hypothetical, you're actually allowed to say those things, as ugly and nasty and gross as it is. And yeah, maybe that gets a knock on the door from the Secret Service. But you arrested him on a criminal complaint? Same as this guy. You have a right to say things that are truly ugly and aspirational and hyperbolic and rhetorical and disgusting. Because theoretically, we actually believe in the First Amendment. That's the problem with this country right now, is that nobody seems to care about the original principles. So you got these people that are running out there and running their mouths like Mark Levin saying we should cancel you for being an anti-Semite. When in reality, the conservative position is, yeah, we have values and we don't want to hang out with you, but you have every right to do it. And we're going to just beat you because your arguments are bad and we're better. We're not going to allow you to be able to exist. Anyway, here's another guy making exciting threats. Enjoy.
Attention all U.S. citizens. As I am recording this video, Donald Trump is preparing to illegally invade a foreign nation. He has no approval from Congress to invade Venezuela. To do so would be an act of treason. It is our right and our duties as U.S. citizens to use our Second Amendment rights to remove him from office if he proceeds with this illegal invasion. If boots are put on the ground in Venezuela, I implore you to rise up. We will not tolerate this tyranny in America. We did not tolerate it when King George taxed us without representation, and we will not tolerate it now. Veterans, remember your oath and prepare for anything.
Sounds kind of threatening. Totally legal and protected speech. It's totally within his bounds to say that sort of thing. Rise up. What's the call to action? What's specific? I don't know. There is none. That guy could get a knock on the door. Let me give you the biggest single example. I saw this from Owen Schroyer yesterday. I was following his feed. He was also equally disgusted. Owen and I tend to think a lot of the same ways. Even off camera when we've talked, like a lot of our things sort of tend to align in the same way. I find Owen to be kind of a very similar thinker. He's like, where the hell is the support for Curtis Sliwa? And why is there none? Why is Donald Trump endorsing Andrew Cuomo, which is a pragmatic and practical thing to do? And I want to examine that for a minute, because it is actually a really great microcosm for why you get screwed over every single time if you are a lowercase c conservative person who somehow has to align yourself with a Republican Party that doesn't care what you think. It's really so easy. They're playing that Kansas City shuffle on you every single day. And a lot of people buy it. And the more that you get aware of it, and the more that you've seen it, and the more that you go like, aha, I see what you idiots are doing. You're just hoping that I don't have any memory. That's what they hope. They hope you have zero context for what's happened. Before we start talking about this, let's break over and tell you, you can get a Spotify. You may get a Spotify ad. If you're listening on the audio, I'll play a Spotify ad right here. You can find the Spotify show at kyleserafinshow.com. Download the app, use it for audio and video. It is outstanding. It's quite good. Join us on Locals, kyleserafin.com. If you're watching anywhere else, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Rumble, if you're watching on X, we get no money from X, by the way, but whatever, watch over there. Hit a like, hit the little heart button or the thumbs up, whatever it is. Subscribe to the channel, subscribe to my handle over on X, putting out a bunch of fun stuff. Let's talk about Curtis here. That guy's been pretty consistent for a really long time. He's the other man in the red hat, isn't he? Right? Bombastic, New Yorker, wears a red hat, reminds us of somebody. There's a thing. He's pretty much kept his values, as far as I can tell publicly, pretty out front. Why is he not a real contender? Part of it is because New York is not going to elect a Republican. But I don't think he's that conservative based on listening to a lot of the stuff he has to say. He's not particularly conservative. What you have, though, is a guy that has been interested in public safety. His general stance is protecting men, women, and children, etc. Like, that's a pretty American thing. It's a pretty Western thing to get behind. But what's crazy to me is that we have a president, a Republican president, who's going to endorse Andrew Cuomo, who he punched and beat up all the way through 2020. And all of us looked at it and said, Cuomo is a disaster. He was removed for what? Like inappropriate touching. There's like an attorney general's finding 11 women that he was sexually harassing and or worse. And Donald Trump's going to come in on that guy's side. He says you really have no choice but to support Curtis Sliwa, because the alternative is a communist, is a democratic socialist who wants to have state grocery stores and a bunch of other horrifically bad ideas. A 33-year-old guy who's running on charisma only. What about principles? Where does that come in? Let me just ask you this. Did anybody from the Republican Party on the national level go out there and try to push Sliwa? We're all worried about what's going to happen in New York. I don't care. I think it's great. I honestly think, like, let New York have what New York has. It's the same as Portland. I've written them off, and I think most people have too. And I think people that are intelligent, that are relatively conservative, if you live in New York City, you're out of your freaking mind. I've spent plenty of time in New York City. Even my in-laws, even my father-in-law, who legitimately believes that communists have a really good argument and doesn't think that people should own private property. We've had this debate. He doesn't think that you should be able to own a gun. And yet, he also thinks that law enforcement should be the only ones with guns, but he doesn't trust the cops or the government. Like, the logic of his position is really fun. Like, I really enjoy my father-in-law because he's a lovely human being and he's a really sweet man. And some of his ideas are so funny to talk about. I think that he represents like kind of an old school New Yorker in so many ways. Like, they don't have to make any sense. It's New York. It's just a big mess. But even he has abandoned New York City. And he sold his house there. And guess where he lives? Same. I'll give you guys one guess in the chat. Where do you think my father-in-law, who was born in Manhattan and raised his family in Brooklyn and lived in Brooklyn for his whole life into his 70s, where do you think he is now that he has left New York City and New York State? Where did that man move? One guess in the chat. I'll leave it up here for a second. We're going to read a couple of things and I'll come back and answer the question. I bet you some of you guys know. Trump is going to endorse Andrew Cuomo on the eve of the mayoral election. You have no choice. President-backed Cuomo is running as an independent. He lost his primary. He lost his primary. Yeah, all of you guys. The Florida guys are right. How did anybody say New Jersey or Texas? Shame on you people. What are you guys talking about? No, he's in Florida. Like all New Yorkers who leave New York, they go to Florida. They don't even know that there's any other place to go. Like there's a pipeline. They run straight down I-95 and they end up in Florida. All right. Here's what's crazy. Sliwa won his primary as the Republican candidate. Cuomo lost his primary as a Democratic candidate. The Democrats chose not Cuomo. The Republicans chose Sliwa. So our Republican president is going to back the not winner of a primary, the quote unquote independent, who is a staunch establishment Democrat and always has been, who's part of the huge New York political machine, whose like father was governor, his brother's a propaganda outlet. Are we serious here? And the answer is that they didn't run whoever they thought was going to win in a primary. And the only person that stepped up to do this job is a guy that basically has been fighting a losing battle against crime and I don't know, public safety in New York for his whole life, his whole adult life, hence the red hat. Ain't that something? Is it just me? We just cannot find people to like stand on principle. It's so interesting. And New Yorkers want it, by the way. That's the best part of it for me. For me, I love it because New Yorkers are like some of my favorite illogical human beings. Let's play a New Yorker. New Yorkers, what do you think this is about? Let's see here. What is your favorite example of communism? I'll give you a couple answers. You tell me. And the answer is always going to be, well, there's so many things in my head. This is who Sliwa's losing to.
Who are you voting for mayor?
I like Coumo, but I think Mamdani might be pulling the lead a little bit with me.
What's your favorite example of socialism that's worked?
I don't have a big example of it, of socialism.
Like between Venezuela, Cuba, Soviet Union, what's your favorite one?
Man, you put me on the spot. I'm gonna have to go Cuba. Man, I'm gonna have to go Cuba. Yeah. Let's go there. It's just so complicated for me. I got so much information in my head, but I'm gonna go with that.
Do you think Mamdani's the future of the Democratic Party?
I mean, I hope so.
Why do you hope so? Why are you not voting for him? Hold on. Did you hear that? I'm going to vote for Cuomo. What's your favorite communist country? Probably Cuba. I got a lot of facts in my head. Basically no facts in my head. Do you think that Mamdani's the future? Yeah, I hope so. What? The voting bloc in America is so dim-witted and has so little context that this Kansas City shuffle works all the time. They're like, our guy, he just can't win. The guy that we nominated, we can't win. That's why we have to go to the other side. That's why we're going to have to go with the status quo. Cuomo is the status quo. He's a known. You guys know how crazy that is? They gave up the fight before there was a fight. Like if they thought there was someone who was going to be a better option, why didn't they run that? And if you thought that Sliwa actually had some, and by the way, he got some popular support. He just doesn't have enough to beat Mamdani, it sounds like. Why didn't they go out there and throw their support behind him? Why didn't they go out there and campaign on this sort of whole attitude that we've had? It's like, hey, crime can be solved. Apparently, the FBI solved murder per Republicans, per Dan Bongino. They solved murder in the United States. Why are you not going out there and saying, this is a guy that's been working against and trying to have public safety in the subways and like where it affects regular New Yorkers? Why wouldn't you have that? Maybe because they know that you're so dim-witted that you're going to have people like this go out and vote. These people remind me of all the nicest New Yorkers that you'll ever meet. I'm sure they're educated. I'm sure they make a decent living. They are dressed well. They are well-spoken. They are not particularly rude. They're not the rude New Yorkers, like the street New Yorker thing. No. These are your average, dim-witted, easy to fool, going to vote for socialism, and they're the first ones in the boxcars if it were to actually go down the way it should go down. I hope so, right? I hope so. I hope he's the future. You got a 33-year-old guy's been a U.S. citizen for 7 years, and he's never held a real job. And these people are like, yeah, that sounds like exactly what if the young people want it, that's what I want. I want to be on the right side. I've been told that that's where the good is. This interview right here on the street is so funny because it shows you that people will willingly walk into their own demise and they won't even realize it and they won't be able to have their eyes opened up. You can't open their eyes up. It won't happen. And Sliwa's a bad guy.
And what about the government-run grocery stores? Do you think that that's a model that could work?
Yes.
And
I
why?
think there's too many hungry people. and too many potatoes here that are $5 a pound.
Yeah, you got to lower the prices. Is there anything else about Zoran that gets you excited about him?
I'm excited that he gets young people excited, and I'm excited to see people standing in line, hopefully, to vote for something new.
And last thing, the number one comment I get on some of my videos is that socialism doesn't work. It's been tried many times. Why do you think it'll work?
This isn't socialism he's talking about, social democracy. You know, government should work to encourage people to thrive and be successful. Everybody thrive. It shouldn't be a matter of it should be equality, not supremacy. It should be a matter of bringing everybody up and not just having a few people with entirely too much money and too much decision.
What does that mean? Can someone leave me a comment and explain that? I don't speak New York boomer that well. I have like a passing familiarity with it. Government's job is to bring everybody up. Where does it say that? What? Under what obligation do we have to bring everybody up? Are we required to make everybody better off? Does anybody know? Like, where is that in the charter? It's supposed to leave room for us to do it. I thought that what the entire American experiment was, is that you're supposed to give space for us to be successful or not. I don't see a safety net built in. I read the Constitution, front to back, multiple times. No safety net required. That's crazy. That guy was talking about a thing called religion. It's like values, societal cohesion, community. It doesn't come from government. You can't mandate it. It's not a governmental function. Anyway, they're going to get it. They're going to get it. They're not going to have the one guy who is mean, who's been out there teaching people to step up with the guardian angels and try to make sure that women could walk home on the subway, which I'm not crazy about women having to go home on the subway by themselves anyway, but that's another story altogether. Like, New York is New York. It's an animal in and of itself. And so it has different rules. And like, this dude's been out there and he's been relatively consistent. You can't say otherwise. He's been doing the same thing: crime prevention, self-defense, youth mentoring, homeless outreach. Like, he's kind of soft-hearted. He's a guy that lives in a big city. He's been there a long time. He's 71 years old. I'm just saying. That's not a conservative. That's like a New York version of a conservative. And they couldn't get behind that. So we're going to have to get behind the New York version of a not as bad Democrat who's about as bad as it can get in Andrew Cuomo. And again, where was the party behind these guys? You want to know why you lose? It's because they never get behind there. I got this interview that my buddy Saul Greco did, brought Sliwa on. For a little while, he was going to ditch the hat, and I guess he went back to doing it. Good for him, at least. I guess he maintained consistency. People recognize him because of the beret. It's a little bit goofy, but he's been doing it for a really long time. He's been doing it since before I was born. So who the hell are we to criticize that? Just listen to this kind of question here. It's like they're asking why he stayed in the race. He was the nominee for the freaking party. And the party never did anything better. They didn't run anyone better, and he got the votes for it, and then what? Then they walk away. You want to know why you lose? It's because you were never even in the race. Your person was never even there, and they never had a chance. And your party that you guys all get behind, and like, that's why I'm not a Republican. They look like they're designing their system to lose. If you throw the game before the game starts and you never play it real, don't be surprised when you actually lose in the end. Like, but people keep acting like they are surprised. Oh, we got to go for Cuomo. Trump endorsing him.
The president of the United States hasn't endorsed, he hasn't said anything, and is this MAGA crowd, which, Curtis, the MAGA crowd, a MAGA candidate cannot win in New York City. I've said this as far as mayor goes. That would never happen. But at least Trump, or, what is your take on the support from the party? Because it's not like everyone's supporting you. We have, like, I'm pointing to, John Katz being one guy. Bill Ackman, I thought he's a Republican. He's screaming about Cuomo. First Adams and Cuomo, even though he knows nothing about politics. I mean, it's kind of like you are representing the people, and the people are the ones behind you. This setup, or the party itself has their own agenda, it looks like. And it's sad because they're Republicans.
Well, Sal, you're exactly right. I've dubbed myself the people's mayor. I've raised more money in matching funds, where you get an 8-to-1 match for a contribution from New York City residents, than all of the other candidates combined, including Eric Adams, until he was one and done, and the price was right for him to drop out. That means people reached into their own savings, or what little money they have, to make an average donation of $119 that was matched 8 times. That's given me millions of dollars in this campaign. 15,000 contributions. That's double the number of Andrew Cuomo, who, as you know, is a household name. And not because of anything he did, because the better Cuomo is always Mario. I knew Mario Cuomo. Let me tell you something. Andrew Cuomo is no Mario Cuomo by any stretch of the word. So not only do I have the money, I have the supporters. There are signs, posters everywhere. Sliwa for mayor. You don't see any posters for Cuomo. Occasionally you see some Zoronistas posters in the areas that he did well. Like if you go to Astoria, you go to Long Island City, Park Slope, Brooklyn Heights, Carroll Gardens, you go to Sunnyside, Woodside, and Richwood. But those are the areas I'm going into because there's this perception, Sal, that every millennial, every Gen Zer is looking at TikTok and they're like all of a sudden mesmerized. And because of that, they're going to vote for Zoran Mamdani. That's not the truth. Most millennials and Gen Zers are on the fence. They haven't made a decision. But they will vote for Zoran Mamdani if nobody else shows up. And Andrew Cuomo has no feel for these young men and young women at all. In fact, if you're 22 and a female, you know he's going to say, I love you too, if you're 22 and you want him to stay away from you, because that guy has a nasty reputation. But putting that aside, he's...
Isn't that what New Yorkers sound like to you? I don't know. I've spent enough time. My wife is from New York. I spent time with New Yorker. That sounds like a New Yorker to me. Mamdani does not, by the way. Not even a little bit. Mamdani sounds like a con artist. He sounds like he's selling something really scary to me. Why do we care about New York? Why should we ever care about New York? In a lot of ways, I don't. I think it's not America. I think that they've ceded that territory. Unfortunately, so does the Republican Party, folks. The Republican Party ceded that territory. They stopped. Our president, who's from New York, ceded it. He walked away. He's like, yep, we're not even going to do it. So the guy that's going to be out there is running this. And here's where it gets scary. When the president of the United States is a New Yorker, right? A lot of the thought leaders that come into the quote unquote Republican Party, and then we're acting like they're conservatives. They're not. I don't think Sliwa is conservative the way that I would describe it, especially not by the values that he's lived. So be it. But his principles are what they are, and they're pretty consistent. And he's a well-known quantity. And you're going to abandon that, and they did. By the way, they banned it. It's on the screen for you right now. Trump is backing a quote unquote independent who is a lifelong establishment Democrat. Period. Non-negotiable. And so we're going to see a mayor, probably most likely, they said, like I said, 92% chance that he's going to win. Mamdani's going to step in. That is going to go to the lunatic radical fringe right at a time when you have this strange and fun opportunity to turn young people who see that this is dead. Dick Cheney died today. And with him, the conservatives, the Republicans, the status quo Republican, Dick Cheney died at 84 years old. And that could be an opportunity for people to look around and go, fine, let's take this party in the direction of what makes sense. We're going to be focusing in on the thing that won Trump the presidency, America first, which really should mean America only until all of our business is handled. America first means, to me, we're going to solve the problems in this nation, including maybe getting our Congress to pass a budget and not run around and kick around 42 million people who are going, quote unquote, hungry. Doesn't seem like anybody's going hungry. That's what the lady in New York said. The posh lady who's wearing a nice jacket and a beautiful scarf and has jewelry on and designer eyeglasses and standing there with her husband with their silver hair that are talking about, I'm excited about the young people being excited. Here's what the young people are being excited about. A guy that is literally rabble-rousing and saying, if you have been alienated or called a terrorist, then you're my people. It's a hell of a sell. And it's going to actually win in that place. That's why it matters. Because that messaging, it gets people excited. People want to be part of something. And we've seen dumb people get excited about really dumb things. The Republican side of the aisle is missing out on the entire wave that I keep seeing. There's a reason why a Nick Fuentes has a voice. There's a reason why Tucker Carlson does. Because they're willing to push back against this thing. Do I agree with all the things they say? Of course not. No. But can't you have conversations with people you don't agree with? I talk to Ryan Matta probably 5 times a week, guys. I told him, I think a lot of the stuff you say is really dumb and dangerous and kind of stupid. Like it's not even well logicked out. And yet people care about it. There's an audience and you're having fun. I would never silence you. I wouldn't even try to tell you to say something different. I got friends that say things that are completely ridiculous and illogical. They think things about the Charlie Kirk assassination. They think things about the entity that I used to work in when I actually know the answer and they think that they know it. So what? You're allowed to have that opinion. Welcome to America. You can say things like someone should be executed. You can say things like we want to hang this person. You can do it in effigy. You should be able to have an actual free speech. We're going to cancel that. And Dick Cheney dying could be a real turning point. It should actually remind people that these people are so old that they're dying of natural causes at 84 years old. That's a natural time for Dick Cheney, who's been sick for 50 years, to die. Or you could just hand it over to this guy.
And I just want to ask everyone in this crowd, if you can raise your hand if you have been called a terrorist while living in this city. Yes. If you can raise your hand if you...
What you couldn't see if you were just listening, and by the way, if you're on Spotify, you could see all the hands go up. A bunch of people's hands go up. I've been called a terrorist. So what are you doing? You're trying to find the people that you're trying to do grievance politics? This is what the left loves to do. They found it. There are people that have grievances. Those people, do you know who have been called terrorists that live in the United States? There's like two groups. There are people that are immigrants that come from places and don't look like it and don't seem to hold the values that we do. And then like people like me and you. Because I've seen our government call us a terrorist. When guys like that get in, that's what's going to happen. They're just going to brand you a terrorist. How do I know? Oh, because they already did it. Because I worked there when they did. When the red hat, when the MAGA hat was considered a symbol of a militia violent extremist or an anti-government, anti-authority violent extremist by our current FBI. And by the way, those a-holes still work there. And they're still running things. You know how I know? Because they covered up for a pipe bomber that basically helped us overthrow this government. We watched it get overthrown in our own eyes. We watched a single riot be the rallying cry for radical leftist policy and like totalitarian tactics. But if you think it's just going to be isolated to that, arresting a guy because he says some hyperbolic speech on TikTok, it's the same thing. They use the same weapons. So you could be a person of principle, or you can be just like sit out of the race and see what happens. And your Republicans just see what happens. I'm not part of the party, so I can't shape it. But I can tell you that the people who have the money that donate to it, they all think this way. There's a Republican version of this as well.
And what about the government-run grocery stores? Do you think that that's a model that could work?
Yes.
And
I
why?
think there's too many hungry people and too many potatoes here that are $5 a pound.
And I just want the anti-American, anti-Israel, anti-West crowd to understand something. You're going to have to come through me and millions of people just like me, and you're not going to make it. You think your stupid little podcast, or your stupid little subscription program, or your little TV show, or maybe you have a little radio show, is going to change the world like hell it is, not if I and everybody else have something to say about it.
You think your little podcast, you think whatever it is that you get your news from, you think your social media account, you think that matters? You got a little radio show? That's Mark Levin. That is the great one. That is a man who could pick up the phone and get access to the highest levels of power in our country. You guys want to let that thing run? Because that's what's been going on. I think he's lost it. I think everybody that was on that stage at the Republican Jewish Coalition that I've listened to, Randy Fine, Brandon Tatum, I listened to a bunch of people get up there and say wild things that are so out of touch with regular people that they're just going to be like, yeah, F it. I'm not even going to vote. Like, whatever. Bring on Coumo. Bring on Mamdani. Bring on whoever. No, none of you have principles. We'll just send Tim Burchett back there. Hey, everybody. I'm going back there. Thanks for sending me. Let's just disconnect. That's where we're at right now. We're at the point where even young people sound like the flippin' turtle.
We don't even care whether or not we care.
That's from my childhood. That's the tortoise from the Never-Ending Story. People are just going to pull into their shells and just hope that their community survives, which, by the way, is probably going to be the only answer it works. There you go. Did we have fun today? We didn't even talk about all the other corruption stuff. I'm just telling you that I've been watching this page over at The Blaze. If you guys are not following my friend over at The Blaze, updating it, it's still not out yet. Oh, boy. It's coming though. Go to theblaze.com/truth at some point today and go check it out and see when this story's dropping. I'm watching. I was ready for it. Look, hold on. I'll show you on the screen here. I was ready for it, but it hasn't come up yet. There's going to be some stories about some January 6th stuff. It's not even about this. This is just their most recent story. There's a story coming out, I believe, about the use of some of the crowd agitation stuff that Baker's been following and has been on this podcast quite a bit. We may have him on over the weekend. And so, stay tuned to that. theblaze.com/truth. I don't promote other people all that much, but I always promote my buddies, especially when they're doing outstanding and really like critical work because they have principles. If you guys don't know, my friend Steve Baker used to be known as he was the pragmatic constitutionalist today, but he used to go by the pragmatic libertarian. And there's something important about that, like that sort of libertarian attitude. Then you add the Christian ethos and boom, you end up as a constitutionalist who actually has real values and principles. And that's not Republican. So that's why we're not there. That's all I got for today. We're going to continue on with some other things. I want to go through tomorrow. I think we're going to go through the wild sort of story. I queued up a piece of it. For those of you who have been seeing this and you haven't heard anything since, isn't that interesting? The ISIS-inspired Michigan gang busted for the Pumpkin Day attack that they did to try to change the narrative about the jet. I'm going to tell you this. This is my teaser for tomorrow, for those of you who are listening. The United States District Court, Eastern District of Michigan. What you see right there is a criminal complaint. I'll push this out, but we'll flesh out the argument tomorrow. Whenever you see our government go after and do a criminal complaint at the federal level, it means that there was either exigent circumstances or it was unplanned with the United States Attorney's Office that does prosecution. There are very, very few times when criminal complaints are normal. They did it all the time when it came to the January 6th stuff. That is not the way that our FBI does business. And so this whole story about busting a Michigan ISIS-inspired terrorist thing, I read the indictment yesterday while I was sitting on my exercise bike, and I've got a lot to say about it, but I wanted to sleep on it more than once. So we will talk about it. We won't be the first, but I'm going to give you some information, and I want you to consider criminal complaints are not the way that the FBI does business. It's not the way that federal law enforcement does, because almost always they are not doing things in the spur of the moment. They are doing things with a long-term investigative plan, and they have plenty of time to go to a grand jury and get the indictment. They don't have to go out there and do the criminal complaint, which is the reason why they did it for all of the J6ers. And when you start seeing this at the top of the pattern of facts in the affidavit, there's a real decent chance that something is getting abused. And we're going to talk about what that is tomorrow for sure, along with whatever else is going on. God bless all of you. Thanks so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like the show if you guys are watching. There's the places you can find me. It's on Rumble. It's on X. It's on YouTube. It's on Locals. If you're watching after the fact, Spotify is the best place, KyleSerafinshow.com. Make sure you subscribe to whatever channel you're listening at. Make sure you like the video there. And if you would like to send it to somebody, just send them the link, KyleSerafinshow.com. That's it. Have a good one. Good luck, New York. Good luck. I feel like I should go off with a palate cleanse of some kind. Let's see if we can find something out there that'll just make us remember that, yeah, it don't work. It's not any good. And it's not going to necessarily come out great. How about this? This reminds me of something.
Okay, it's been 3 years. Shouldn't all of us unvaccinated be dead by now? If the vaccine was so great, why is it so easy to find people who regret taking it, but not a single person who regrets not taking it? The same people that forced you to get vaccinated to keep your job then let in 10 million people who were unvaccinated and unemployed. Remember when we had to put our mask on in between sips of our drink? If you were okay with that, you're deranged. Before we go in, put your mask on. I thought these don't do anything. Yeah, they don't, but that's not the point. The point is to show that we're good people who care. Remember during COVID when they painted circles on the grass in the park? And if you left your little circle, someone's grandma would die? Science. Remember when we weren't allowed to eat inside unless we made a new inside and put it outside? Whenever you're feeling dumb, just remember there are people who stayed in their homes for a year because the TV told them to. Remember in 2020 when a certain group was allowed to burn cities while everyone else wasn't allowed to go outside? That was weird. Guys, I know I make fun of COVID a lot, but I'm actually grateful in a way because COVID made me realize who the true psychopaths are in this country.
Thanks for listening to The Kyle Seraphin Show, streamed live weekdays on rumble.com/Kyle Seraphin. Follow Kyle on Twitter, Truth Social, and Instagram at Kyle Seraphin.